What's up, man? Welcome. Oh, gotta hit go live. Let me not do that like last time. What's up, everybody? Welcome. Thank you for stopping by. Sunday. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Hope you guys are doing well. I wasn't crying. I washed my face. A teardrop. Um, so a couple things that I wanted to talk about and just hang out with
What's
you guys.
up,
Man? Welcome. Oh, gotta hit go live. Let me not do that like last time. What's up, everybody? Welcome. Oh, sorry for the echoing. Couple things to talk about. There is a podcast that came out with this guy, Joseph Scott Morgan. I've seen him before. I know that. I think Nancy's had him on as a guest. I think I've seen him like on TV and stuff. And oh, he was on Dr. Phil, which we still haven't watched the Dr. Phil episode. I don't know if that's any good or not on the Idaho incident. What's up, man? If you guys could hit like too, I'd appreciate that. Thank you so much. Hope you guys have a good weekend. I kind of took yesterday off, which was nice. And I think let's first start off with this video. I haven't even watched the full thing, but my friend sent this to me, and I was like, "Oh Lord, oh Lord." This CNN, and they're talking about the viral and misleading TikToks on Idaho killings are now posing safety concerns. So we're going to check out this video. We're going to talk about as well. I mean, do you guys think Brian falls into the incel category or no? Is it just reaching? And we're going to take a look at some incel stuff too. Some of the, they're going to break it down, the definition, some articles. You got a notification. Amazing. Happy Sunday, man. See how you guys are doing. Take a look at the chat. And I think tomorrow I want to cover a new story that I've mentioned already. So tomorrow I think we'll do that. Missing person. Let me do a little poll right now. And I feel like does the incel category. I feel like it's a mix. I feel like he does, but I feel like there's other issues there as well. And we've kind of talked about this a long time ago. The whole incel thing. In truth, so Tom Farrell here says, in truth, lots of people, oh Lord, in YouTube chat lacks much romance in life. Let's be honest. I don't think that's true. But there is a lot of people out there that I don't think it has anything to do with just being single or whatever. Like I think incel is like a whole nother level of where you start to build like animosity and like hatred and anger and all this stuff. That's not what it means. Is every single guy an incel? WTF? I mean, if the shoe fits, wear it too. If there's so many people upset about it, wear the shit then. Put it on. Some people say no. Some people say yes. 74% say yes so far. When I got 300 votes so far, and 26% say no. Some incels are offended. I remember the other day, somebody, I think they were an incel in the chat. They were offended because, I mean, incel. It says here one of the definitions are young men who consider themselves unable to attract women, typically associated with views that are hostile towards women and men who are sexually active. The other thing too, if we take into account what these people have said online, if it's true, the whole bullying in school, girls picking on them, even throwing things at them, that could be part of maybe why too. Involuntary celibate. Incel computer brand. All right, let's take a look at this one here first.
Outside the courtroom about the University of Idaho murder case, but on the internet there is no such prohibition.
We have uncovered what we believe are some old writings of Byran Kohberger.
And most of it on TikTok, Facebook, and other places is speculation and hypothesizing.
The evening following the murders, Kohberger's phone was pinged in Johnson, Idaho, which is 3 hours away from Moscow and conveniently next to a national forest.
How prevalent is internet sleuthing? Consider this. This Facebook group, University of Idaho Murders Case Discussion.
Hey, shout out. Shout out. Hey, University of Idaho Case Discussion. Hey.
25,000 followers. And this is just one of many groups discussing and hypothesizing about this case online. Prior to the arrest of Byran Kohberger, a user who goes by Papa Roger was a prolific contributor on the site, with many creepy and insensitive posts, and what turned out to be incorrect speculation, such as, the white Elantra is a red herring. But he also declared, of the evidence released, the murder weapon...
Oh, did he say that? I don't know he said that part.
Case online. Prior to the arrest of Byran Kohberger, a user who goes by Papa Roger was a prolific contributor on the site, with many creepy and insensitive posts, and what turned out to be incorrect speculation, such as, the white Elantra is a red herring. But he also declared, of the evidence released, the murder weapon has been consistent as a fixed-blade knife. This leads me to believe they found the sheath. The fact that he got the detail correct about the sheath, despite getting so much else wrong, is one of several reasons many on social media think Papa Roger was Kohberger. This person saying, I really think Papa Roger was BK, Kohberger's initials. And this person, okay, this Papa Roger stuff is wild. How would anyone besides him know some of this?
Oh, Rose! So she said here in a tweet, okay, this Papa Roger stuff is wild. How would anyone besides him know some of this? Very unsettling.
Very unsettling. There is no indication Facebook or the police believe Papa Roger, who is no longer in the group, is Kohberger. Then there is this video taken at an Idaho prayer vigil for the 4 murder victims prior to Kohberger's arrest, with many people hypothesizing online.
People think that the Idaho murderer attended his victim's vigil.
This person commenting, Byran Kohberger, spotted, prayer vigil, Moscow, Idaho. And this person,
people think that the Idaho murderer attended his victim's vigil.
This person commenting, Byran Kohberger, spotted, prayer vigil, Moscow, Idaho. And this
am I going to pop up in this video too somewhere?
Sure looks like the psycho, but a TV crew from the news magazine Inside Edition was at the vigil and has videotape of the man close up. It's definitely not Kohberger.
Bro, this was so funny when we first found out. I didn't even talk about this until after they debunked it. I think I retweeted, and then we watched that video one day of Inside Edition where they debunked it and they showed the guy, and I was like, oh, it was so funny, the reaction. Because it was like, no, because a lot of people kept talking about this. They kept sending it to me over and over and over and over, email, DMs.
We are not showing his face to protect his identity. And then there is this.
A lot of people have been asking, who is Rebecca Schofield?
A woman who calls herself Ashley Solves Mysteries has posted scores of videos on TikTok accusing a University of Idaho professor of participating in the killings. Never mind that police said the professor was never a suspect. The TikToker, whose real name is Ashley Gillard, posted this video about 2 weeks before Kohberger's arrest.
We need to dig deeper into her personality so we can understand her beliefs and who.
She got all the cards right there, the deck of cards out. Oof. Wow.
Who she is, so that we can further understand her motives for the murders.
We reached out to Gillard. She did not respond, but Professor Rebecca Schofield has responded. Her attorney filing a defamation lawsuit against Gillard. The lawyer, Wendy Olson, saying, the statements made about Professor Schofield are false, plain and simple. What's even worse is that these untrue statements create safety issues for the professor and her family. They also further compound the trauma that the families of the victims are experiencing. Professor Schofield twice sent cease and desist letters to Ms. Gillard, but Ms. Gillard has continued to make false statements, knowing they are false. Thus, this lawsuit became necessary to protect Professor Schofield's safety and her reputation. The next court hearing in this case is scheduled for June. Expect the social media discussions to continue. Gary Tuckman, CNN, Moscow, Idaho.
Okay.
Well, Pam, you caught us in a dry moment here.
Damn. They still got water issues out there? All right. The other thing, too, what I wanted to kind of talk on a little bit is Haley, and this is the person that said that she went on a Tinder date with Byran Kohberger. And there was one thing, two things, because I guess they're hunting this woman down too, apparently.
I'm sorry, but what causes someone to even think like this? My life has been living hell for the past 3 days. This all started with people trying to dox me. Somehow, my one single Facebook comment became me being his girlfriend and me knowing things about these murders that I do not know. I went on a date with this man 7 fucking years ago. I do not know
the tickler
him. I have
Zoe said the tickler. Imagine like other people come forward. Right now I'm just waiting for more people to come forward. Like we got the hairstylist that came forward. I just want more people to come forward, and I want to hear if there's any other tickle incidents with this guy.
I have over 1,000 fucking unread messages.
Damn.
Between media and people saying some bullshit in my inbox. I can't even tell you how many people I have blocked over the last 3 days. It is a miracle that I'm even still allowed to use the block function. And now, not only are people harassing me and trying to dox me, but people are harassing my family and friends and people that I haven't talked to in years.
Damn.
And yeah.
So the super sleuths are going for her family, her friends, looking her up, hunting them down, even looking for friends of friends, I guess, people that she hadn't talked to in years. And this is why people just don't really come forward. I mean, they do, but you know, this is what happens. So they really, really searching her, man. They digging. Damn.
Yeah, I knew that people would see my video. I knew that it would go viral. And yeah, I guess I kind of did this to myself. But can you people think for 15 fucking seconds about what you're going to post under someone's video, post, whatever it is? Whether or not I ever went on a Tinder date with Brian that night would have not changed what kind of person he ended up being. My interactions with him were completely meaningless, and that is the point of this all. I only posted my original comment on Facebook because I was in shock seeing his face and I couldn't believe that I was face to face with this guy. So I hope that next time before you post some dumbass bullshit comment, not only you, but literally anyone else that has been in my comments the last few days, you think about the bigger picture and how this is affecting someone's life. I'm sorry, but...
Bruh. If you guys could do me a favor and hit the like button, please. Helps out with the algorithm. I'd appreciate that. By the way, the other night we were on Twitch. Make sure you follow my Twitch page. I was on Twitch. We watched both of the 2-hour specials. 4 hours. The 2021 and the Dateline one, which I think both were interesting. And I think they both brought something different to the table. Because I feel like one was kind of more focused on the families and the victims somewhat. And the other one was kind of more around, I guess, Brian. I'm trying to remember. It's all like a blur now. But I think they both offered different perspectives. It was interesting. The only thing I really saw... I don't know. The only thing the hairstylist thing. I was like, oh, snap. They found his hairstylist. What was I going to? Oh, yeah. And then the next thing, let me just do the super chats. Izzy, thank you so much for the super chat. Says JLR looked sus. Sonia, thank you so much for the membership. Oh, thank you for going to member. I got to do member video. I got to do some more members videos. I'm a Mel Cell because I want him and can't have him. Oh, thank you, Sonia. I appreciate that, man. And definitely check out the members area, because I'm going to be putting some more videos on. There's videos there now, but I got to do some updates. So they're coming for Haley, man. And if you didn't see the caption said, "Do you think that if he would have just effed him, maybe he wouldn't have killed those people?" Which is kind of like a silly thing. But I was like, oh, Lord. And I think there was one more.
Okay, don't mind my hair because I literally just woke up and my cat's being clingy. But you want to know something crazy? So I did 2 media interviews that were televised. If you didn't see them, you can look them up. I'm not going to name the names.
And let me just, I don't know, this is, take it with a grain of salt. But my friend told me supposedly, allegedly, the hairstylist sold that clip for $10K. Nah, bruh. So the voicemail for $10K. No way. Where you hear that at? In case you guys missed it, if you haven't seen it, I think most of you probably have, but if you haven't, and make sure you follow my Twitter page. Follow me on Twitter. This is the clip right here.
Byran Kohberger was one of my regulars.
Ooh.
I've been cutting his hair since July.
What?
And the first time I was ever contacted by Byran was through voicemail.
Hi, my name is Brian.
Hi. Oh, hi.
Would you be able to give me a haircut tomorrow by any chance?
My last appointment with him was December 2nd at 1:45 p.m.
After the murder? The boy's getting cleaned up.
It's crazy to find out I interacted with this person. I touched this person's hair. I made this person look and feel good about themselves.
I saw his mugshot and just about fell on the floor.
Byran Kohberger was one of my...
Damn. I don't know. So maybe she got paid. I don't know. That'd be interesting if she did. Okay. So Haley, let's keep going.
So I decided I wasn't doing any media interviews after that because it just was a lot, and they didn't really let me talk about what I want to talk about, which is being safe on the internet. So I just stopped replying. Yeah, the media, it's very like, especially those news segments, they just want what they want, and it's like very short sound bites. You're not really, depending on the place, you're not really going to be able to have like a bunch of like whatever conversation. They just want a certain thing, and that's it. Get in, get out. To any of the messages I was getting from the media because it was just a lot in my inbox, and I honestly couldn't keep up. But then one media outlet, a big name media outlet, I won't mention their name, decided that they really wanted to do this interview with me. And I was like, I'm not interested, so I just didn't reply. So not only did they reach out to me, but they found the names of my friends and family members and their phone numbers and reached out to them to try to get a... And
damn, bro, the media is that savage, huh? So the media is always talking about YouTubers, but they're doing the same shit, if you ask me. I mean, I guess that maybe they're not going to the levels. I guess they're just reaching out to ask, but they really try to hunt her down. The friends and family, so the media doing the same thing, huh? Okay. All right.
I have some fragile family relationships, and I'm not gonna say like my family relationships are bad or anything, but like I just went through a lot of things with my family, so those relationships are still pretty fragile. So them reaching out to family just kind of made more drama than there ever needed to be.
Bro, I could imagine that. Your family's getting calls, people maybe you don't even talk to anymore, they're getting calls, you know, unsolicited calls, who knows, emails and stuff. The whole family probably getting maybe upset.
So after my family had let me know that, you know, these people reached out to them, I was like, I need to get them to stop like harassing my entire family and my friends. So I replied and, you know, I said, hey, I'm not interested in doing any more interviews. And they were like, oh, we'll let you talk about, you know, internet safety and like dating app safety, stuff like that. And I was like, okay, so I agreed to the interview. And you want to know something fucking funny? they
cut it
messaged
out.
me
Oh, no.
and said that they're not covering the story anymore. So you mean to tell me that you would harass my entire family, that you needed this story so bad, and you're not even...
They don't care about online safety. They just want the juice. Juice of the story. They don't care about that online safety stuff. And honestly, if they would have let you on, they probably would have cut it out. Would have been trimmed out.
Gonna fucking cover it. Just pissed me off, and just needed to get that out there.
Wow.
Okay, don't mind my hair, because that they're not covering the story anymore. So you mean to tell me that you would harass my entire family, that you needed this story so bad, and you're not even gonna fucking cover it? Just pissed me off, and just needed to get that out there.
All right. And I think that's it.
If you're seeing this, this is your sign to get the fuck out of your hometown. About 9 months ago, I woke up one day and realized I felt like my life was missing something.
All right, I'll leave it at that. And at one point, she shows her husband.
Here he is.
Maybe they were, I don't know if they're asking nicely or asking meanly, but just wanted to update that a little bit. I guess they were trying to come for her and her family and friends and stuff like that. Now, let's get a little bit into the incel thing, okay? Just kind of curious what you guys think. So far the votes are, we got a 75% incel category and 25% say no, he's not an incel. And, you know, a lot of people were talking about his looks. That he looks like this. When I read the article, it's tongue in cheek sometimes, you know. But he don't, I mean, looking at the guy, you can't really see, like, oh, this guy's a killer, right? Like, we're all looking at it with hindsight. I mean, even some of the awkward behaviors that neighbors would talk about. It says, Idaho murder suspect Byran Kohberger had an incel complex that drove him to kill ex-FBI agent. Myself here. University of Idaho suspect Byran may have been driven to kill by his history of social issues and a possible incel complex, the former FBI investigator told the Post. The murders may have been an effort to assert some type of dominance. Former FBI agent and security expert Pete Yakimitz explained to the Post. He believes the brutality of the crime and Kohberger's history of social challenges may offer some hints to the possible motive. I believe he continued stabbing the victims, a continued stabbing of the victims, and uncontrollable rage and extreme anger, Yakimitz said, noting that Kohberger has been described as socially awkward with a long history of interpersonal problems. I think he may have developed a sort of incel complex, he surmised. The term incel, an abbreviation for involuntary celibate, is generally used to refer to men who struggle to establish romantic or sexual relationships. The identity is occasionally linked to misogynistic online forums in extreme cases, and in extreme cases, crime. In 2021, the self-professed incel Trez Genko was busted for planning a mass shooting on 3,000 sorority sisters at an unnamed Ohio university. Genko pled guilty to the sick plot and is facing life in prison. Involuntary. Though it is not a proper psychological definition, Psychology Today noted last year that men who and I don't know why you would identify yourself as that. Like, if I was having problems, like, why would I guess why? Because it's a support community. Why would I label myself incel? I'm an incel. You know, men who identify as incels often have poor mental health and experience feelings of victimhood, inferiority, and loneliness. Yakimetz's personal analysis of Kohberger echoed that Dr. Carol Lieberman, a forensic psychiatrist, who told the Court TV last week that she believed the suspect fit I guess being an incel. I've been saying from the beginning he's an incel. Let me play this clip real quick. We can watch it right here.
What do you think's going through his mind? If this evidence is correct, he's presumed innocent. When he returns to the scene of a quadruple murder the next morning, and there's no police cars, there's no crime scene tape, there's no ambulance, there's nothing, like nothing happened.
Yes. Well, first of all, as you know, I think I've been saying from the very beginning that he's an incel, and all the things we've been finding out since then go along with that, like his stalking of the victims and so on, his choice of the victims, and all of that. So incels like to be known for when they kill people or when they have a conquest like this. And so I think in part he was disappointed that that there wasn't the police presence and so on. He's conflicted. On the one hand, he wanted to commit the perfect crime and not be caught, but on the other hand, he did want to be caught and be proud in a sense of what he did. I know that sounds sick, but that's the mind of an incel. And do you know that the incels have started a campaign to free Byran Kohberger?
Wow.
So that part there. So I was trying to I don't know where she saw that. Supposedly she claims that the incels, do we need to infiltrate the incel community? That supposedly they started a campaign. I don't know if that's true, to free Byran Kohberger. I did see this one screenshot on I couldn't find it. I went to go search it myself. Or maybe I got to type it all together to find it. There was this thing where it says free Byran Kohberger, but I don't know if that's trolling. Two people try to troll. Byran Kohberger is innocent and a victim of fake news media and crooked cops. Let's see if I can find that all together. No, I don't even see where that thing is at anymore. Communities. I don't know if it was deleted or what happened. I can't find it, but there was that screenshot of that. Supposedly they're rallying, upset, angry.
Has started a campaign to free Byran Kohberger.
Wow. Wow.
Not surprising, I guess, right? Rogers. All right. The other thing.
The suspect in the murders of 4 Idaho State students will appear in court for an extradition hearing. His lawyer says Byran Kohberger is eager to be exonerated.
The country is eager to have questions answered about this hardness motive. Terry?
Murderer suspect Byran Kohberger got his master's in criminal justice and was going on to get a PhD in criminology. Some wondering if his passion for crime could have been a perfect launching pad for someone seeking to commit the perfect murder. I posed that question to a professor of criminology to find out. Well, Moscow police and the FBI were working feverishly to solve the murders of 4 Idaho students. The now arrested suspect, Byran Kohberger, was 10 miles away from the crime scene, studying for his PhD in criminology at Washington State University. Was this deep interest in the criminal mind a telltale sign?
One of the things that professors in this field, in criminal justice and law enforcement, we always worry about this. It's always in the back of your head, right? That somebody you're teaching, you're training, however you want to look at it, could end up using it for something bad.
Retired NYPD homicide detective and criminologist Professor Joseph Jacalone says, though, studying criminology, even at an advanced level, doesn't make someone a master criminal.
Maybe he's a little arrogant in regards to that. And I think some of that is coming out. People think that they're smarter than the cops and they're going to get away with these things.
Kohberger's lawyer says before Christmas, Byran's father flew from his home in the Poconos to Washington State to drive Byran back home in their white Hyundai Elantra. The same car.
Cross country took them approximately 2.5 days. Mr. Kohberger indicated that Byran was acting normal and not out of character on the drive back from Washington.
Jacalone says the Hyundai is going to be vital evidence.
Stabbing 4 people and didn't drag blood evidence and everything else with him into that car. So I'm sure investigators are looking to see the nearest car washing place, or if he had the car detailed, or he went to a local store and bought things to try to clean it up. I mean, and they all have surveillance video. So I think it's going to be really interesting how this plays out once tomorrow arrives.
The hell?
Which his lawyer says he plans Idaho.
They just cut her out and didn't have anything in their video about the bar situation. All right, so let's get to this part here too, a little bit of the incel stuff, and then we're gonna listen to a podcast, which I don't even apparently. Oh, yeah, I do have it up here. We're gonna listen to this Joseph Scott Morgan.
There's a horrible act of violence like this where people die. When you're online, you tend to see people searching for an answer right away. In a lot of cases, if there is a social media profile of the person believed to have done that act, people will look for answers there. And so in the case of the Toronto attack, what people found when they started searching through an account that Facebook has now confirmed is linked to the suspect, they found a post that referenced a lot of these kind of incel memes. Incel stands for involuntary celibate, which is a pretty broad term, except as it pertains to kind of online culture, it means something very, very specific. In the incel community in particular.
So that's one of the incel websites, incels.me. Oh. Incels.me. Got a really strong community, right? Incels.me. I wonder if incels consider this like bad publicity, or is this good publicity for them? I don't even think that site works anymore.
Kind of is all bound around this central thesis, which is that the reason that they are celibate against their preference is not because of them or men or kind of societal expectations about what makes a man, but because of women. On some more of the extreme boards, you will see celebration of violent acts from people like Elliot Rodger, who had a lengthy online history within the incel community before he killed 6 people in California in 2014.
I've been forced to endure an existence of loneliness, rejection, and unfulfilled desires, all because girls have never been attracted to me.
So if you visited...
And he's not like a bad looking guy. How does that even work out? Is it just their behavior and stuff? So dramatic too.
Rejection and unfulfilled desires, all because girls have never been attracted to me.
Man.
So if you visited one of the incels' more extreme message boards in the hours after it was revealed that the Toronto suspect may have made a Facebook post that referenced their community, you saw some users kind of celebrating what he did. One post talked about how horrible the women were in Toronto, with the heavy implication being that maybe some of the people who died deserved to die because of the way they had treated men.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, I think see, I think it's kind of interesting to kind of hear about this stuff with the whole his advances rejected, a lifelong of rejection. I mean, I don't know. Kohberger, he seemed to try to be social. He was, I guess, from the accounts that were given, I don't know, these people, it seemed like he was trying to fit in. But, they say they noticed some things that were off. And, he struggled with his weight, apparently, and he was being teased. And then he did this whole transformation where, supposedly the bullied became the bully. And he became aggressive and stuff, I guess. And then he went on this, they called it a food fetish. He had some sort of food fetish or something. And so he just took things to the extreme. Such a weird thing, yo. So they, I guess people that do have sex, they call them Chads and Stacy's. Chads and Stacy. I feel like it's just they spend so much time on like nothing, like wasting time. Why do incels obsess over Chad and Stacy? And they got something called Becky's too. Chad, Stacy, and Becky. I don't know. Like, I just feel like, I don't know if they take that energy and just go like, I don't know. Not that they can't have a job, but like go work, try to make a business, go work out, do some exercise and shit, take some classes or something. Like, damn. Oh, Becky. So let's look at this real quick. What does Becky mean? Okay, so let's see. Let me just look at the picture. Becky, loose, baggy clothing to hide her body. Thinks guys like the natural look. What the hell? Nerdy bun. Has few beta orbiters. $5 backpack. Wants to F Chad. Needs to wear super tight yoga pants to. Wow. Minimum wage at Starbucks. Goes to school to work on her meme career. Okay. Stacy. Big assets. Makeup on point. $2,000 Gucci bag. F's Chad. Never works a day in her life. Lives in luxury. Naturally curvy body. Gives men instant erection. Okay. Sexy, majestic, long blonde hair. Has countless orbiters and numerous Chads blowing up her phone. And other iteration, Becky is a feminist. Will likely dye her hair sick green, pink, or blue after attending college, and post provocative pictures because she needs attention. Despite being a 6 out of 10, Stacy, on the other hand, again has a natural blonde hair and shows off body online because she knows she can make big money off virgin losers. Damn. Feminist, needy, needs to dominate the relationship. 6 out of 10. Friends are white knights that defend her stupid opinions online, post provocative pictures because she needs attention. Yeah. Let's Chad dominate her. Oh, so they really spend time like studying this thing. Making diagrams and pictures and stuff, and maybe they got stuff up in the walls and stuff like that, and community forums and Google forms and charts and diagrams and research studies. Damn. This is like serious for them. Okay. Oh. Like the MGTOW, men going their own way. Which I've heard of that movement, and I guess it was just like I don't know much about it. I thought it was just like men saying "F it, I'm done, I'm done." Men going their own way is an anti-feminist, misogynistic, according to Wikipedia, anti-feminist, misogynistic, mostly online community advocating for men to separate themselves from women and from society, which they believe has been corrupted by feminism. MGTOW, I'm done. Done with this shit.
Way you find the pickup artist.
Oh, if you guys could help me out with the likes, please. Thank you so much. I'd appreciate it. Likes and subscribe too. Por favor. Let me get the super chats real quick. And thank you guys on Twitch. I think we're gonna do something tonight on Twitch. I don't know what though. And there was this crazy story that I watched over the weekend. I'll have to tell you about it at the end of the stream, I think, if I don't forget. Full Vet Mom, thank you so much for the membership, this Prime membership. I got Izzy already. Sonia, thank you so much for the membership. That's it. 10-month membership. Hello, Legs. Missed you. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, everyone. Missed you too. I hope you're doing well. Can't wait. I don't know. I wonder are you back already or not yet? Hope you're back. Bojo's Football, thanks for the membership. True Crime Fallacies. True Crime Fallacies. Thank you for the super chat. Says, incels believe they're entitled to sex and view women as objects. It goes deep, dark, and depraved. Seriously creepy dudes. Wow. So they just feel like they're owed it. Damn. So it's an interesting kind of look into the incel and some of the history. This one too I thought was kind of interesting because I had a little bit of Elliot Rogers, which is like kind of an infamous guy that was a YouTuber.
Often frustrated sexually, and they're turning to Well, there is a growing threat to women from men who are often frustrated sexually, and they're turning to extreme acts of violence against women because they can't find romance.
Fox 13's Ernie Freeman reports on a dangerous group of men called incels.
If I can't have you, girls, I will destroy you.
Elliot Roger was a sexually frustrated 22-year-old.
I'm 22 years old, and I'm still a virgin.
Bro, that's just so crazy. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't see myself making videos like that. I guess maybe he was just really desperate. I don't know.
I've never even kissed a girl.
He died a virgin because one day after recording this video in May of 2014, He shot 20 people near the University of California at Santa Barbara, killing 6 and then killing himself.
I hate all of you.
The inability to find romance is what led to Rogers' extremism. He was what's known as an incel, someone who is involuntarily celibate. 8 years later, Rogers is a hero to many young men like him. And law enforcement and civil rights groups are worried his ideals are spreading and more women will be targeted.
Threatening their lives, threatening them sexually. And this all stems from this ideology, the incel ideology, which essentially blames women for men's lack of success in relationships and in sexual relationships specifically.
While the vast majority of women-hating incels are in dark forums and dark corners of the internet, Jessica Reeves with the Anti-Defamation League says that's no reason to doubt their hateful speech online won't lead to another Elliot Rogers situation in real life.
I can't think of anything much more.
And that, you know, this reminded me of, I don't know if Mo's watching. I think it's interesting to see this, just to see. Again, I don't know that that's what Byran Kohberger was. I was kind of thinking that theory that he falls somewhat into that category. I mean, we'll find out more information. But there was this weirdo stalker guy, and I think he was an incel. I don't know if Mo was watching or not. There was a video of this guy. Let me see, stalker, incel. I think somebody called the police on him. Police called something. Creepy incel snitches on himself to police. This is a TYT. See, do they have the full video? They have the full video here. Maybe we can watch this after we get through this little segment. This was let's see if it's this guy. Yeah, it's this guy. It's this guy. Let me show you real quick. This thing is a real thing. People can't take it as a joke. It's just for real. I remember I heard about this recently because it went viral. Tennessee cops arrest delusional incel for stalking his female co-worker after he filmed himself telling officers he chased her down the street because she is crazy and is into LGBTQs after she rejected his advances. Jacob Yerkes. Upset, angry. Suspect in custody following social media threats. During the investigation, it was determined that Mr. Yerkes was making unsolicited contact with a coworker. It was further found that he was posting on several social media sites, including YouTube, making threats of violence. These social media threats garnished national attention that led to the London County Sheriff's Office becoming involved, and the FBI and the Joint Terrorism Task Force. They took his ass into custody for aggravated stalking and harassment. Here's the video. Let's take a look at this real quick.
Wait up. I went to Cracker Barrel, and I was going to play a song for a woman that I kind of like. And I got there, and she saw me, and she immediately pulled away. And
I mean, some ladies might see this as a sweet gesture. You know, this guy's like a customer or something. He comes back to the job, and he's coming there to sing her a song.
And I was going to play a song for a woman that I kind of like. And I got there, and she saw me, and she immediately pulled away. And I wasn't forcing her to listen or anything, you know. I just wanted to play the song for her, you know, give her her own choice if she wanted to be with me, you know.
Did she know you?
Yeah, I worked with her there for like 5-6 months.
Did y'all have a relationship?
No, we were talking a little bit, but it never really got serious.
Okay.
But anyways, I pulled up there, and I was in the other parking lot, and I saw her get in her car, and I was like, oh shoot, it's my moment. So I pulled up there next to her, and she pulled away from me, and so I chased her a little bit, just because, I don't know, women are crazy. Like, I felt like she wanted me to chase her.
Do you not think chasing somebody's crazy?
Well,
and yo, these people, that's what I'm saying, like the lack of self-awareness. I feel like I've talked to people like this all the time that do crazy shit, and when you're like, I don't know, uncomfortable or calling it out, they're telling you you're crazy. What?
No, women are crazy. Like, I felt like she wanted me to chase her.
Do you not think chasing somebody's crazy?
Well, it's just like I only went like a couple blocks down.
Oh, just a couple blocks. Just a couple of blocks.
down the street.
I'm just saying, don't you think chasing somebody's crazy when they obviously don't want to?
Well, I had my song playing, and I wanted to like her to hear it. Maybe.
Well, apparently she didn't want to hear it, right? So what else happened? Let's get on with the story.
Well, anyway.
Hurry up with this shit.
Her father called me up, and he made some threats to me and to my life.
Okay.
And so I just want to have his name on file.
What did he say to you?
I think he said he's gonna stab me, like, but he's like cussing at me.
He said that, or he did say that?
He says I'm gonna do something to you. I swear I do something to you.
How do you go from I think he said he's gonna stab me to when the cop tries to clarify? Did he say that, or what? He goes, oh, I think he said he's gonna do something. You just said two different stories.
For chasing his daughter?
Yeah, but it wasn't chasing. It was like going down a couple streets. Like that's like fun to women. Like women like that. A little bit of excitement.
No, they don't.
Well,
Women don't like to be chased.
What about like?
If I was I'd probably tell you the same thing.
What about
this is why I guess this is what they just lack social skills. I guess. I mean, it's not that hard. Like just common sense. This dude chased her, and he said women like being chased. Maybe he's interpreting that wrong. Like this dude's literally chasing after a woman, running after them on the street. I mean, maybe they want to feel wanted and stuff, but bro, like if they're not interested in you, this is not like this dude's literally chasing this woman down the street, bruh.
Excitement. No, they don't.
Well,
Women don't like to be chased.
What about like?
If I was I'd probably tell you the same thing.
What about like? Where women like to have fantasies.
Well, apparently this girl doesn't.
Well,
wait, what kind of fantasy did he say? Because they bleeped it out. Did he say like our fantasies or what? I'll never understand how people like this. And I have some other weird shit to show you that Silvio sent me. Because Silvio told me last night some Byran Kohberger looking dude, acting guy, came into his place of work. This guy just starts going on there talking to women, but like recording them and shit. And like drinking. He's drinking his own liquor, which that place doesn't. It's not a liquor place. It's just like I think it's like a beer and wine type of place. But he's like going around making people uncomfortable and shit. It's so weird. And the guy uploaded. He recorded it and then uploaded it to his YouTube channel. Our fantasies? Wow. These guys, bro, this is crazy, dude. This is so crazy that these people think like this.
A little bit of excitement.
No, they don't.
Well,
Women don't like to be chased.
What about like?
If I was I'd probably tell you the same thing.
What about like? Where women like to have fantasies.
That worked, John. This girl doesn't.
Well, who knows? Most women do like having fantasies.
Okay. Do you think she does?
I don't know, but
apparently she don't.
Well,
so what do you want us to do?
Well, I just want you to get his name on file, just in case he does do anything to me.
Do you know his name?
I know his daughter's name.
What do you know his name?
I know her name. I don't know his name. He called me from a restricted phone number.
Okay. Here's my suggestion. Leave her alone.
Well, this is one song I made, and this was the final chance I was going to have.
Here's my chance. Here's my advice. It's over. Leave her alone.
Okay.
Fathers will hurt you over their daughters.
Bro, man. It made me, since we're on the topic of this stuff, it made me think about this guy. There's another video, too. I'm going to show, let's see. That's fucking weird, bro. Weird, man. You can imagine, like, the anger that these guys walk around with, you know? Like, so we saw this.
Okay, so I was going to go to Cracker Barrel. There's a girl there.
What's with the camera?
I just want to record the incident so I have it on file and can track everything.
An Eastern Tennessee man posted a to rural police why he...
And I got there, and she saw me, and she immediately pulled away. And I wasn't forcing her to listen. I hope you see this video. You know what happens when women don't ever, come to terms with themselves? Bad happens. I don't know. Something the cops want to deny me trying to get her to be straight. Something is wrong about that. I don't see why.
And I think he's referencing the whole LGBTQ thing. I guess he wants to make her straight. This is just so weird.
Why these traditional ass motherfuckers think they can speak whenever it's this woke, belligerent LGBT that has her right now, and her father is controlling the bull. Snakes.
This guy needs to be put on a list. Weirdo, dangerous, delusional. He needs to be on a watch list. I hope they got a gun at the house where this girl's staying at. Weird as F.
Man.
In a follow-up
Cringy as fuck.
video posted to the same YouTube page, the man appears to have been served with papers that I will presume are temporary restraining order papers.
Have you ever heard the song "Baby It's Cold Outside"?
Probably.
You know, he's like saying, she's saying no, I'm saying yes, and they're just playing this game.
But that's for the judge to decide, not me, okay?
I know. Just the way it is. And lots of people stood up for that song, so, I mean...
These YouTube videos came to the attention of law enforcement and as aggravated seed to his...
Yeah, so I don't know. That... Lord almighty.
Worthy of law enforcement's time than the safety and lives of women.
The threat's so real that in March, the U.S. Secret Service released a threat assessment of incels. They zeroed in on the 2018 attack at a yoga studio in Tallahassee, Florida, where an incel killed 2 women and injured 6 more. Reeves says incel ideology is akin to extremism in white supremacist and terror groups.
There's absolutely some overlap. If you spend time, which I don't recommend, on incel forums, you will see some white supremacist language, some anti-Semitic language, certainly extremely racist language on these incel sites, but it is not an all-encompassing thing. And certainly there are many incels we know who are men of color.
We found that 36% of incels in our study were incels of color.
William Costello is a PhD candidate at the University of Texas who wrote his master's dissertation on incels. He says while they are politically and ethnically diverse, other factors might be warning signs of future danger. 18% are NEETs, not in education, employment, or training. 50% still live with
so there's that's interesting statistics. NEETs? So what the hell is NEETs?
Might be warning signs of future danger. 18% are NEETs, not in education, employment, or training.
Oh, okay. So not no school, not working, nothing. They're just at home. And then 50% living with the parents.
50% still live with a parent. And 36% have a high school diploma or lower. Factors that reduce their chances in the mating game.
Some research does show that unwanted celibacy, being unable to access sex, does predict misogynistic attitudes.
And Costello says what truly binds incels is the almost fatalistic belief that they will never find romance with a woman, the so-called black pill philosophy.
So for incels, the black pill describes a particularly bleak truth to swallow. And in this case, it refers to their idea that there was nothing they could ever do to improve their romantic prospects, that it was over from the beginning, so there's no point in even trying.
Costello says the incels he studied showed signs of deep depression and anxiety, which makes them dangerous to women and to themselves.
It's almost...
And then imagine this. Imagine... I just slowed the chat down a little bit more for you guys. And by the way, so the incel poll, 2,600 votes. Thank you for the voting, everybody. So far, 75% say yes, that he falls into the category. And like I said, I think there's multiple things going on with this guy, but I personally think he does fall into the incel category. 25% say no. And there's just still a lot of missing pieces to it. But what I was going to say is imagine that you are a woman and you date some guy that's an incel you don't know, and you're the first woman ever to date this incel. Imagine what it's going to be like, 1, throughout the relationship, and 2, let's say that the time comes to break up. Imagine what the breakup is going to be like with an incel, right? Or let's say you got knocked up by an incel. Now you got babies and shit with this guy. And maybe then you get married and then you start realizing all this weird stuff. How are you going to get out of that? Are these weirdos that are wiping out their entire families? Are those incels that had managed to get one relationship, and then now that the relationship's going to shit, the woman's trying to get out, get a divorce, and they wipe out the entire family? Maybe that's a reach. Probably a reach. But I just can imagine, like, if you just happen to be one of the women that, like, all right, let me give this guy a chance. He's nice, you know, whatever. A little strange. He's tickling me and following me to the bathroom, staying outside the bathroom with his ears pressed against the door. So I'll give him a chance. Bro. Oh, that's got to be, and it's honestly, it's got to be scary, right? If you're a woman and dating an incel, you didn't know it. All right, let me get the super chats. Thank you, Twitch. Thank you, Twitch, for the, let's see here. Jessica, thank you for the bits. Michelle, thank you for the bits and the subscription. Invisible Diggs, Dad said is back. Amazing. Katie, thanks, and we got to catch up. Katie, thanks for the super chat. Says, just FYI, hatred for a woman equals incel. Incel is a very specific community. Most incels who commit crimes tend to make it clear they're part of the group and don't hide their identities. Beckfist, thank you for the membership. Amazing. That's a shame. It's interesting because before it became a community, we all knew that this nice guy, who could just never really get a girl because he was a little big or awkward. Man, now all the guys are going to be on alert, or the women are going to be on alert. Nice guys didn't have a chance back then. They don't have a chance now. Melissa, thank you for the membership. A's Red Smoke, thank you for the membership on Twitch. Amazing. I got to work on Twitch too. Up All Night, thanks for the 9-month membership. Says, show some love, get those likes up, please. And thank you if you could. I'd appreciate that. Tony Damon, thank you for the subscription on Twitch. Bears Nightmare, I went to tech school far away. An ex-friend drove his bike, all the way from that area to my home to hang out. Because he took that drive scary. What? Let's see. I went to a tech school far away. An ex-friend drove his bike all the way from that area to my home that I hang out because he took that drive scary. Damn. Just to hang out, huh? Shiro's Nation. Thanks for the super chat. Said, hell, I'm scared and he ain't looking for me. Let's keep going.
It's invariably been suicide by cop. It's been, going on a spree killing while being very aware that they're going to be killed themselves in the process.
With this known and growing danger from incels, I asked the Memphis Police Department, which has a female police chief, if they had any incel intel and a plan to protect local...
That's true. Hal says an incel having babies by definition is not an incel. That's true. But what if an incel had somehow managed to overcome and get out of his inceliness, right? Like an incel might not be an incel forever. We're not all the same thing forever. So let's say an incel finally one day hits it off with a woman and they fall in love and he knocks her up. And so, yeah, by definition, maybe he's not an incel, but he still has those incel characteristics inside him. And when the woman, let's say the relationship goes bad, I think those tendencies are still in there. And you, all your life, you've been hating women, but now you've been able to get a woman. And now the one woman that you were able to get, that you have kids with, you're having issues, and then she leaves. How do you think that person's going to take it? Like, well, sometimes we take L's in life, everything's going to be fine. Or do you think they're going to go insane, batshit crazy?
For women, MPD never responded.
I'm really happy that you brought up the issue of law enforcement, because I think that they're the first step. And, we do try to educate as many law enforcement agencies as possible on this issue. And, if you have a contact,
a reformed incel, there should be, I should look online if we have any incels. I mean, not incel, but like incel recovery people, or like people that have covert incel, huh? Or insider incel.
And you can say, listen, ADL is happy to do a 1-hour presentation that'll just get you guys up to speed on some of the threats that we're seeing from incels. I'd be more than happy to do that.
According to that threat assessment from the Secret Service, one way to reduce the risk of future attacks is to have appropriate systems in place to identify incels.
You never showed me any mercy, and so I will show you none.
And identify the warning signs and take appropriate action before it's too late. Ernie Freeman.
Yeah, so apparently there's femcells. Susan says, is there a female version of incel? Apparently there's something called femcel. And I wonder if it would be interesting to hear femcel talk. What is a femcel? Isn't it just, I was going to say something funny, but I don't know. Isn't that just like a feminist? No, I'm just kidding. Kidding. Toxic femininity. Femcel hour. Femcells unite. I'm kind of curious. What is a femcel? There's very little known about the femcells.
Fox 13 investigates.
Wow. Well, federal investigators say since the early 2000s, incels have killed roughly 50 people, mostly women, in mass shootings. But they say that they have thwarted many more acts of hate against women.
In fact, the National Threat Assessment Center says that going forward, it's critical for everyone involved in public safety to pay very close attention to these
Pay very close attention to the nice, awkward guys.
incel communities and make sure that they're protecting women.
Let me see. This is, oh, actually, yeah, I wanted to show this too. Former incel.
Tomorrow is the day of retribution. The day in which I will have my revenge.
Soon after posting this video to
Femcel's not as common as incels. Yeah, there's not really much about them. I guess women don't really have that issue.
YouTube,
You guys will take anything. They'll take anybody, anything.
Elliot Rodger would go on a shooting spree in the California city of Santa Barbara, killing 6 and injuring many others.
Shots fired, shots fired.
The attack, a form of revenge by an angry young man, one who was hell-bent on blaming women for his own personal loneliness. It's a subculture of men and some women who call themselves incels or involuntary
Oh, she said some woman.
celibates. They mainly gather in online forums, finding common ground in their shared loneliness, hatred of themselves, and anger toward the opposite sex.
Women are just evil, you know what I'm saying? Women are evil, women are cruel, women are mean.
The group name that you've probably never heard of before, incels or involuntary celibate.
Now, a new BBC documentary, Inside the Secret World of Incels, presents a never-before-seen look at this community online and off.
I think it's fair to say a lot of people have not heard of the term incels and have not heard about the incel community. I think it's certainly something that more people should know about because there is a risk of violence from this community.
When the incel movement first began online in the late 90s, it was seen by many as a comforting resource, a place to belong for those who had no sense of belonging.
Whenever I see couples walking about, I'm happy for them, but at the same time, I'm also just like, oh man, I am so alone. It hurts a little bit.
Well, that's not a crazy feeling, whatever, to see that sometimes, you know, or have that feeling.
Forums can definitely be, very supportive. Having an online community to fall back on or to go to is definitely a source of comfort.
It's a space that Jack Peterson sought out as a struggling teenager.
I think what attracts men to the incel communities is just feeling like they have no other place to go. If they're rejected by women, if they're rejected by even men, the incel community is a place for them to congregate and actually find people to talk to for once, rather than just stay in isolation.
It was a world where he could freely post this video.
No matter what I do, no matter where I go, nobody values my contributions, nobody respects me.
Peterson eventually...
Wow, man, because I don't know. I remember when I was going to school, I used to hang out with multiple different groups. I used to hang out with the headbangers. I used to hang out with multiple different social groups and whatever people you might, or the nerds or whatever. And everybody had somewhere, like, even if you didn't feel, I mean, I don't know, I guess school's not like that. They all have all these little social groups and stuff. I used to bounce between all of them.
He became a moderator for one of the incel forums. He says violent talk and threats were not tolerated.
If someone crossed a line into threatening what seems like real violence, they'll be banned from the website. I know on numerous occasions there would be communication with the FBI to make sure that nothing actually crosses into reality, that it just stays a post on an image board or on a website.
But some say Rogers' attack in 2014 marked a shift from a community that lived online to one that for some erupted into violence in reality.
Before Elliot Rodger, there were a number of online misogynistic communities operating. But Elliot Rodger really flips the switch from a community that is angry online, operating within the digital space, to a community that has the potential to carry out real acts of violence.
His blind rage targeting strangers, like promising student Katie Cooper. Her parents left devastated.
He attempted to get into one of the sorority houses with a tremendous amount of ammunition. Instead, out of frustration, he got in his car, drove around the corner, and saw my daughter. My daughter paid the price. So we like to believe that that wrong place, wrong time scenario helped save 50, 60 girls' lives. So, you know, kind of a silver lining. And, you know, when you're in our position, you look for these, you know, wherever you can.
Just last year, 2 alleged...
And that's the thing, too, when we covered Andrew Tate the other day and all that stuff that was going on, I just wonder sometimes, too, how young men consume that content. You know, and he has really long-form content. I've never listened to any of his long-form stuff. I've seen the little highlights online on YouTube or the motivational videos and stuff like that. And even recently now, this really horrible stuff came out of him. I forgot what he said. Something about R and like enjoying it or some stuff. I don't know, crazy shit. He's taking L's left and right. But I wonder when these communities like this that are gathered come across this guy's content and how they interpret it. You know, it's probably vastly different from somebody, you know, a regular guy consuming the content versus these people in the community.
Copycats. In April in Toronto, a van mowed down pedestrians, killing 10 people. And then in November, a shooting at a Tallahassee yoga studio would leave 2 people dead. Both of the attackers allegedly posted online that they sympathized with Rodger. Nightline is choosing not to show you more of Rodger's videos or the memes that now circulate praising him, but it's clear he's gained an infamy within these forums. Shortly after the Toronto attack, Peterson decided to leave the community altogether, announcing his departure on YouTube.
I asked the owner of incels.me to permanently ban my account.
I left after the Toronto attack because I didn't want to be a part of a community that supports violence, even if it's in a joking way.
But Peterson says that most incels are not violent, and that within the incel community itself, Elliot Rodger isn't taken seriously.
There's a lot of memes about him. People think he's perceived as some sort of a hero figure, but I think he's more kind of just made fun of.
Adam Jessel, the executive producer of Inside the Secret World of Incels, has been studying the incel community for years.
In terms of the number of people that are at risk of actually carrying out violence against women or carrying out some kind of physical harassment of women, that is a very small number. In the case of, you know, violence and mass murder, you only really need one person to move from, you know, online hatred to real-world violence.
Although not the norm, his film does seem to uncover disturbing instances of simmering anger toward women manifesting in real-world actions.
I'm the catfish man. I catfish females. I'm a legend in the community. I'm a hero.
What? What is this? I feel like we're always finding like this weird stuff. So this guy's a catfish?
Simmering anger toward women manifesting in real-world actions.
I'm the catfish man. I catfish females. I'm a legend in the community. I'm a hero.
Catfish Man, whose full face is never shown, humiliates women on camera as a way to seek revenge.
Hey, you're so fat. Look at that.
The women, who he says believe they're there to meet a model from online for a date, are instead met with verbal harassment and intimidation.
Got catfish. It's kind of...
So this guy, not in shape himself, really, right? demeaning this woman over here and catfishing people. This is just, and I just like, why waste so much energy? Like, you could do something, try to do something productive, try to maybe, like, I don't know, exercise or take up a hobby or something, and you just spend your life doing this and being in anger.
Like a, victory for, the incel community, basically. So this is basically like my retribution in a sense, all those girls that treated me like
And this is why I think it's so interesting too, still, because we're still with the whole Byran Kohberger thing, where supposedly, allegedly, some of the people said that he was being teased by all these girls, and throwing things at him in class and all that.
Catfish man's behaviour was, very alarming and very distressing. On the one hand, we wanted to show people that this stuff is going on, this stuff is out there. On the other hand, we were conscious that we were giving airtime to this guy.
The Anti-Defamation League is one organization that's been tracking incel communities and identified them as an emerging domestic terror threat.
It operates in some of the same ways that we see other extremist movements operate.
They say law enforcement and community cooperation is key to monitoring violent content.
Tips have always been helpful for law enforcement when somebody might be sort of straying. The combination of law enforcement, tech industry responsibility, and everyday people knowing that they have a stake in this, hopefully we can keep this down.
As for Katie's parents, they hope her senseless death teaches our society to be more vigilant.
Our daughter died because some individual couldn't cope. Just couldn't cope. That's why she's dead. And his parents missed it. Anyone who was trying to help him missed it. His friends missed it. Society missed it. And my daughter paid the price. That's the bottom line. If you want to stop this from happening to other parents and other innocent children, you need to get to the individual. You need to find a way to reach them and help them and realize that suicide isn't the way out. Going out with a bang so you can make the news isn't the way out.
Seems like there's got to be a mental health aspect to it also, right? You got crazy people in all different kinds of groups and categories or whatever. All right, so let's do this. Free Byran Kohberger. Let's read. I'm gonna read this, and then we'll start the podcast. We haven't even done the podcast yet. We're at almost an hour and a half in. Criminologist Kathy raised some questions on Saturday about online posts by Byran. Revealed his mental health struggles. CNN host Jim Acosta and iCkEdMeL, a criminology professor at the University of North Carolina, an FBI profiler, about her thoughts on New York Times article published Friday that revealed Kohberger's mental health condition, citing online posts and messages from his friends. Some of the online posts dated back to when Kohberger was a teenager, when he reportedly felt disconnected from society and spoke about various mental health challenges, including anxiety, depression, and constant thoughts of unaliving, on a website called Tapatalk, which we've covered. And I don't know that that's 100% him. I believe it's him. That the YouTube channel Hidden True Crime, they linked it, I believe, using his email addresses. I haven't been able to pull up his email addresses. I know there's a YouTube channel that has pulled up stuff. I just think the picture also matches up. I think a lot of the timeline matches up as well. And the things that he said compared to some of the things that his friends have said, I think it's very possible it's him. And so it says on a website called Tapatalk, Kohberger, and also on the Tapatalk, he talks about making a rap song, which the rap song is on the SoundCloud, which we've heard as well. I think it's him. On a website called Tapatalk, Kohberger spoke about suffering from a neurological condition called visual snow, and in which a person can see scattered dots in their line of vision, similar to TV static. Let me go a little bit full screen. Cannon described Kohberger's mental health symptoms very disturbing, but said more information needs to be revealed to understand his condition. We're going to have to, I think, more deep interviews of people who knew Byran well in order to understand the condition that he had and any impact it might have had on his behavior at that time or later in life, and if that condition still exists. We don't know that. So I think it's going to be incumbent upon prosecutors, investigators, and it's great now that they have a few more months to do this, to conduct these long, behaviorally oriented interviews. One of Kohberger's friends said that he constantly talked about his fuzzy vision in 2009. The Idaho murder suspect also said that his absence of emotion began around the same time he began experiencing visual snow symptoms. So that was it. During her Saturday interview, Canning outlined a set of questions that could help provide a better understanding of Kohberger's mental health situation and behavior at different stages of his life. Do we really know he's charming? Does he lack empathy? Is he cunning and manipulative? Is he controlling? Does he harbor misogynistic feelings? All these things are going to be evident in people that know him well. Certainly, we're getting some indications of his personality through his online persona, but we need to understand him offline as well. Because at some point, the prosecutor is going to have to paint a picture of this individual to the jury, and they're going to have to make some connections in their head, she explained. She added, is this the kind of person, number one, physically capable, but number two, psychologically and emotionally capable of committing such heinous crimes? I thought it was a little interesting bit to add. All right, let's get to this. So this is Joseph Scott Morgan, and he's talking about the affidavit and case updates.
Talk about some of the forensic aspects here. Talk about what the police might be looking for, what they might have, and what is yet to be uncovered. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags. Guys, I have been...
Super chats real quick. True Crime Fallacies, Mel, check the R Incel Tears highlights are some of the best. Okay, I'll check that out on Reddit. Incel Tears. Nicole Rico, thank you for the membership. I'm an angel, thank you for the 4-month membership. You're making me want to stay single forever. Bears Nightmare Autistic Shill, thank you for the super chat. Says, sorry, ADHD, I forgot. The guy demanded I be with him. Damn. It took 40 minutes by car to get to that school. It took me an hour by driving my bike to school. It took 40 minutes by car to get to that school. It took me 1 hour driving my bike to school. Damn. Brandy, public service announcement. No woman wants to be chased. No woman wants to be ard. Also, incels have little turtles. Oh, Lord, they're going to come for you. Don't do that. They go, ooh.
Incredibly grateful that I have got my friend, who I consider one of my best friends in the world, Jackie Howard, the executive producer for Nancy Grace's Crime Stories. Jackie is joining me right now. She's in her studio. I'm here in LA. Jackie, wow, do we have a lot of information to go through? I don't know. I don't know that I actually thought that we would get this much out of this 19-page document that dropped, but it landed in our laps. And boy, is it really causing a lot of people to stop and think and reconsider a lot of positions. I think it's something that you and I should have a chat about today. What do you think?
Well, I think that you started out with some wonderful brownie points there, Joe, so thanks. But yes, there's a lot of information to unfold. The first thing I want to talk about, though, is how much do you think that the police learned that was not included in what was released?
Well, I think you have to start off at the baseline. You know, they only require as much as is needed to get this thing before a judge to draw up an arrest warrant. Okay, so they are not revealing everything that they have. Trust me, this is only the tip of the iceberg. And boy, what a volume of information that they have presented us with. We've got everything from DNA. We've got pings relative to the movement of Byran Kohberger and his cell phone. We've got CCTV footage. The list goes on and on. We've got trace evidence. You know, when you think about footprints and all of these sorts of things that have come to light, and probably for me, what is most defining is we've got a sheath, Jackie, we've got a knife sheath.
If memory serves me right, you called that saying, if they can find that sheath, they're set with DNA. And you obviously were right. So the DNA that was found one spot on that knife sheath. It was a K-bar, as we know, have been talking about for quite some time now. But the sheath, DNA was found in one spot on the clip, the snap clip. I'm wondering, do we know where that DNA came from? Was it blood DNA or is it just skin cell DNA?
Hard to say. It truly is hard to say, and we don't have enough information. We do know that there is a specific linkage to the suspect, and that's important, at least at this juncture. We will find out more what the sourcing of that DNA is. There are many people that have openly opined that this is probably going to be touch DNA. And we've talked about touch DNA before on body bags, but just kind of revisit this very, very briefly. We slough thousands and thousands of skin cells. And the reason you slough them is that they're dead. And so the DNA strand, or that it's just a partial of a strand that's contained within what's referred to as touch DNA. So when you find that bit of DNA, you have to go back in the lab and kind of reconstruct the DNA. But it was sufficient enough to the task that when they did recover the DNA, they were able to develop a profile that eventually, within, 99.9998, I think, percentage points is likely him. And that's big. But yeah, that gives us an idea that he actually had contact. He had physical contact with a sheath. Some people say, it doesn't matter. That could come from anywhere. Okay.
And there's a lot of people talking about this whole sheath thing, and some people saying, he could just come up and say he got it from somewhere, or like he just, I don't know. People are coming up with all kinds of things or possibilities that the defense might try to poke. I mean, I think this is pretty damning, but
that's fine. Yeah, I'll give you that. It could. He could have picked it up. I've heard some people say he could have picked it up at a knife and gun show and just handled the thing. And they're calling it a button snap is actually what they're calling it. And maybe he actuated the button snap, flicking it back and forth, just see it. Okay. That's a starting spot. That's not the ending spot. Okay. And that's important here.
Well, that was my question. Because let me jump in on you. That was my question. If this knife sheath belonged to Byran Kohberger, wouldn't they have found his DNA on more spots than just that clip?
Possibly. But could he have worn gloves and taken those gloves off? Or could he have manipulated that knife sheath prior to putting gloves on, wipe down the rest of the knife?
So that's what I'm thinking. My thought and theory behind that, why he left just on the button, not anywhere else. I'm thinking he was handling that thing before he had gloves on at some point. And like he's saying, maybe he cleaned the thing out, didn't think about the button. That's what I'm thinking. He had handling it prior. And just like, because he's made mistakes. Like when he was allegedly stalking them, he had his phone on. He didn't turn it off those times. And then even coming back to the scene, he didn't turn off his phone when he came back to the scene the next morning. That same morning, actually. So,
knife sheath, but forgot to wipe off that specific area. Do you see? There's so many possibilities here that we don't know the dynamic of it. We don't know how much he's handled this thing. We don't know if the sheath is new, if this is something he just went out and picked up and bought. Why isn't there other people's DNA on this thing? Maybe there are unknowns on here. We never know at this point because they haven't given us that information. You have to figure, let's just say he went to a stall at a gun show and he bought this from somebody. Well, just think about the person that was selling it to him had to handle the thing and would have handed it over to him, would have manipulated it in some way. Well, they don't say anything about unknowns that might be on the exterior of the sheath. They only talk about that one linkage that goes back to the accused. I think that's significant here. And again, we don't know what the sourcing of the DNA is. I'd mentioned touch DNA. You can get DNA that derives from, multiple sources. We can have sweat, you can get saliva, you can get blood, among other things, that emanate from our body, essentially. And so we don't know specifically what the source is at this particular time. And I think another big question is it possible that there might be blood on the sheath? Is it possible? Yeah, it is possible that there could be blood, and it might not necessarily be his blood, the accused. It might be the victim's blood, because it was laying there in the bed. It wasn't laying on the floor, according to what they're saying. It was laying there in the bed. So that's kind of interesting as well. Was there any other kind of transfer evidence that was found on that sheath from any of the victims in the bed? No hair, any kind of body fluids from them, including blood, anything that might be linkage to tie that back. It's not just one person that you're considering when you're looking at unknown sample. You consider everybody that's kind of in the orbit of this environment at this particular time. And all of these are going to be key. They will develop profiles on all of these people moving forward. They're also going to talk about anybody that may have handled this sheath prior to Kohberger having purchased it, if it was a recent purchase, for instance. And they will develop those as well if they find those unknown sources, and they'll try to track those down as well. Again, what's the beauty of this, Jackie, is the fact that if you have all of these other people that have touched it, it's not just a matter of him physically touching the knife and it being there at the scene. If you have unknown DNA that you can tie back to other people that are in his peripheral past, you can kind of track the movement of that knife through time. If he went to purchase this thing, you can find it. Famously, there's been a number of cases, for instance, involving sexual assault, where there'll be a pair of underwear, and you will actually find touch DNA on the surface of a previously packaged pair of underwear that was packaged in maybe Southeast Asia somewhere, and you'll find somebody's DNA on it that handled it in a factory. Just let that sink in just for a second. So the possibilities here are kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
What is the volume of DNA that we're talking about here, and how much would have been needed to match up with the evidence taken from his Pennsylvania home?
Well, I think that that evidence from the Pennsylvania home is probably going to be very rich. If you consider that, let's just think about it. If you're talking about napkins, if you're talking about like cups that he may have placed to his lips, anything that would be in intimate contact with him. And when you think about a trash bag and how we discard things, in trash bags, we're throwing stuff away and it's all kind of getting jumbled up in there. There will be quite a number of things that will come back to him. Certainly there will be things in there that will come back to his familial grouping. And again, that's significant, right? If you can tie that one bit of DNA that they found on this button snap back to this home all the way over 2,000 miles away in Pennsylvania in the Poconos, well, that's a big piece of circumstantial / physical evidence that you have there. If you're going to move forward with this and go to court with it, how can you explain that away? And it's very, very difficult.
But my question is, given the amount of DNA that we are led to believe they pulled off of this sheath, it seems to be very, very small. So does that matter? I mean, is that going to give, well, obviously it did, but is that going to give forensic investigators enough to say with, beyond a reasonable doubt that they matched?
Oh, yeah, it's certainly more than enough. We're talking, at a molecular level here. That's how strong the connectivity is.
So it takes very little.
It takes very, very little, Jackie. Very, very little. And, let's think about it. You're already okay, we're already kind of a bit behind the 8 ball with touch DNA because it's not a complete strand. Because, like I said, it's coming from a dead skin cell. It's sloughing off, assuming that it is touch DNA. Of course, it could be, a number of other things as well. We don't have enough information right now. But it does not require a tremendous amount of sample in order to work back through this for these DNA scientists who are just incredibly brilliant, and the technology they have at their disposal.
Mohawk said DNA from inside gloves he wore to put the trash out. Nancy Jennings says, we public only know a fraction of crime evidence. We have to be patient. He was arrested for a reason. Yeah, I've a lot of people like racking their minds over this and wanting to know and wanting answers, and I talk to friends too, and yeah, we're not going to really know much more, I don't think. I mean, I wonder if more people are going to come forward with their experiences, but I think we're just not going to know a majority of stuff until, I guess, the end of June. You're just not going to know.
It's daunting when you're staring down the barrel of this as a defense team.
The father of Kaylee Goncalves has mentioned that his daughter's wounds were different than the other victims, saying that she had gouges in her body. I'm curious whether or not we would be likely to see defensive wounds on either person that could be definitively defined as they were trying to defend the other person.
Well, yeah, and okay, here's something that you have to consider at this point. We don't know what position Maddie and Kaylee were actually in this bed. We know that they were in the bed together, and to your point, was one huddled over the other in a defensive posture, attempting to defend against any kind of strikes by the accused? Is that what we're talking about, or were they both lying in what would be considered, quote unquote, a normal sleeping posture, face up, face down, or on their sides? You had mentioned earlier that it's really hard, I think, for many of us to even think that a stabbing could have taken place without one person having been aware of it. How do you get past that? Because this is not like a gunshot wound where it's sudden and you might have, I don't know, a pretty quick death. There would have been pain associated with it. There would have been an awareness at a very primal level. You would think that a scream would have emanated, a reaction of some kind. I think that it would be speculative at best for a forensic pathologist to be able to get up on the stand and say, yeah, this person was defending the other person from, an aggressor based upon the examination of the wounds. And again, these comments that the father is making, I have a difficult time kind of measuring out how much information he knows about the injuries on the other victims. Has he spoken with family members of other victims and they've described injuries to him, and he's been able to kind of compare and contrast, if you will? That's very interesting that he can make that statement. And he uses the term gouges, and that's not something that's generally associated with forensic pathology. So that's not something that a forensic pathologist or a trained coroner would say. We would not say, well, they have gouge marks on them. Now, I think a broader thought here is, was he able to see her remains at the funeral home? And if that's the case, he could be assessing this in his own.
That was what some people thought too, because I remember he had said something like, he's not leaking out anything. He paid for this. And so I think he was talking about like the funeral. I believe they were cremated, but maybe beforehand he saw, or maybe the person over there working saw or told him, I don't know.
Way, I think famously, he made one of the early.
And I thought too, supposedly that somebody in the family had said that the coroner told him too, but I don't know. But what he's saying, Joseph, is saying that that's not the type of language that they would use, so.
Initial comments when he was giving a press conference, he alluded to this interesting construct where he said, I paid for that.
Yeah,
I paid for that. I didn't know what he meant by that. I didn't know. Was he talking about the funeral? Was he talking about the funeral? Did he go to the funeral home prior to his daughter's body being prepared and he saw the remains? So I don't know where this is kind of bubbling up from.
That's how I took it. I was really confused about it too when that first came out. I think he was talking with like Fox in front of the police station, and he said those things.
And I think I'd be interested in seeing what the actual forensic pathologist has to say about this case and about everything that's connected to it in order to, kind of assess these injuries. Because look, I mean, he's a dad. He's going to be very, very emotional over this. And I don't know what he is saying and what context he's saying this in.
92% stick.
Because you just never know. You never know where the road is going to lead from an evidentiary standpoint. With that said, I would argue that perhaps aside from the evidence that the bodies contain, one of the most important things here are the mattresses that these bodies were found upon. Because you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn so much from the surfaces of these mattresses. You're going to learn so much from perhaps the interior of these mattresses. It is what we would term an evidence-rich environment.
Well, I had a big light bulb go off over my head, Joe, as we all watched as investigators removed those mattresses from the home. Those mattresses, it looked like they were inside, I guess a huge evidence bag or a mattress bag or something, but they were loaded into the back of a pickup truck. And the first thing that went through my head was, that's not how Joe Scott would do it. Am I right?
So they're talking, and I have to look it up. I mean, I feel like most of you probably have seen that. That's been a while ago though. But yeah, they were taking out the mattresses and they put them like in the back of a pickup truck. They wrapped it up in something, but you could see the blood. You could see the blood on the mattresses. And so some people were kind of critical of the way they were collecting it. Some people were saying, oh, they should have brought like a truck or like some sort of like moving thing or whatever, the U-Haul or something like that.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And this goes back to valuable, sentimental objects that were released from the scene already. So you're releasing these items from the scene that, quote unquote, have sentimental value. Whatever that means. I have no idea what that means. Okay. But yet, you're going to keep these mattresses within the environment, and having not secured them to the point where you're going to remove them to be analyzed, because this is the key, pay very close attention, to be analyzed at the lab. You're going to leave them in there. I don't understand that. Most of the time, when you're talking about mattresses that are involved in homicides like this that are arguably blood-soaked, all right, contain a tremendous amount of physical evidence, that's going out the door to the crime lab, like immediately, like that night. You're going to make arrangements.
That was really weird. Yeah, to the point. Well, when he says sentimental value, I'm just thinking things maybe the parents want. But as far as the mattress stuff, like stuff that's maybe memories, I don't know. But as far as the mattress stuff, yeah, that was weird. That was weird, like how late they did it. Like when did they? What was the date that they actually did it? Loaded mattresses into the back of the truck. I don't remember when the date was. I know it was way after though, wasn't it? There's a mattress up there. Sorry. was just recently, right? Yeah, there was. You could definitely see blood, like on the Twitter picture that Enton posted and other people. You could see. You can't see it on this one. It was the one that Enton had posted. But you can see it here. So you have to look really... There is people that adjust the color so you can see it better. But if you look right here, these are like blood stains right under. You'd have to change... I don't know if it's the contrast or what, but you would be able to see that. You can see... You can kind of see it now too. You just see like the lighter part here, and it's just like these dark... Looks like blood-soaked spots. And a lot of people were talking about that. It was all over, you know. And so, yeah, just the way that they took this out, like way later on, you know, it's like, he's making an interesting point. Like, why wasn't this like done at the very beginning? Like, they're just taking out these blood-soaked mattresses, like all this time after, you know?
They're going to be taken away. And yeah, I saw it and my jaw hit the floor. When I was looking, I was thinking, wait, am I actually seeing this? When I saw the footage of a mattress being placed into the back of a pickup truck. And granted, it appears to be it's enveloped in something, all right, in some kind of container of some type, a pouch, if you will, to get it to the crime lab. But you're going to put it in the back of a pickup truck. That's what we're doing now. You're not going to have a van. You're not going to
see that those very same things that I just said. People were very critical about that. You know, I don't know what the procedure is, but this guy's definitely more experienced. I don't know what his. I've heard of him before. I know he's very Joseph Scott Morgan. Do they have like a little bio thing? By the way, I want to make a bio page. I need to do that, just to have all my stuff there. I don't know. He's a forensics expert. That's all I know. I've seen him around. He's pretty popular, I guess. And let me show you this image too, because thank you, Mo sent me the image. So yeah, when you fix like the contrast and stuff like that, you know, everybody could see it. Like you could see they put this thing in, like, I don't know. It almost looks like a bed cover to me. Because I have a bed cover like that. That's so worth it, by the way, with mattresses. You should, especially if you got kids. It just saves the quality. But anyway, it looks like they literally just put some sort of bed cover on it. They threw it on the back of this truck. They threw some other crap on top of it. I don't even know what that is over here. They're just like, all right, let's go. You know, I don't know. But maybe this is sufficient. I don't know. Maybe this is sufficient for dealing with this stuff.
Have some other resource that you can place this thing in where it's protected from the elements completely and transport it to the lab at that point. I don't understand the rationale behind that, because the mattresses have fragile evidence on them. You know, obviously we're talking about DNA, but we're also talking about things like hair and fiber. And we're also talking about the potential for tool marks. So what do you mean by that? Well, let's just say that these mattresses were the surface that the victims were lying upon. If the perpetrator did not land the knife strike on the body and missed, and it went into the mattress, then now you're transferring whatever was on the surface of that knife to the interior of the mattress. So now you're getting down into the substrate of the mattress. So you've got this very dynamic environment that these attacks are occurring in. One of the biggest areas for evidence capture is going to be on the surface of this mattress and potentially the interior of this mattress. So I was left, you know, kind of with my mouth open, you know, really, really trying to understand what their purpose was in removing them so late and after the fact.
Well, in looking at the news coverage, the mattresses were not removed until about a month after the last time the investigators were last seen taking items out of the home. For that reason, and then questioning them how they moved them, obviously some of these investigators are seasoned investigators, so I'm sure that there was a plan. So how do you think, with what they encased those mattresses in, how were they hermetically sealed to make sure that nothing got in? I'm not necessarily worried about as much getting out as I am of whatever is in there.
But people saying, let's see, that's not their stuff. It's the other two roommates' stuff. That is their family, not LE. Okay. Let's see the super chats. Okay. Jake Hoax says, allegedly, guy that sold BK knife came forward. If true, that puts knife and gun show theory to bed, period. Tried to scrub it, failed clearly. I saw that post a long time ago, but I don't even know if that's true or not. There was some things that weren't consistent. I saw like a money request, but it wasn't actually paid. But he put like a Cash App transaction up. Let's see. Okay. I've got where it says, not victim mattresses, play profiling evil with Mike King's video, bloodstains or baloney. Okay, thanks. I remember when that whole thing came out and it looks like blood, but I don't know. Is it just people playing with the color and contrast? I don't want to play his entire video here. He's a good guy though. I like him. But he does have a video talking about it. Most of the articles say that it appears to be apparent bloodstains. I don't know if it would have been interesting if like they would have confirmed, like police or something. Everywhere online they dubbed it bloodstained mattresses, you know. But I don't know, it could have been a visual illusion. Jay Oaks, thank you for the super chat, says maybe BK's team are removing those assisted by law enforcement. Ooh, and the Eric, thank you, Sad Tapper, for the super chat, says, in the Eric Tamiyusu cold case, the sheriff had a possible suspect burn the mattress. Oh, damn. It looked like blood to me, but I don't know. All right.
Being contaminated.
I think we need to worry about both things, both aspects to this. We do need to worry about things certainly getting in, as you stated, Jack. Anything from externally that could find its way inside of this pouch that might be outside of what you would expect to find in the pristine interior protected scene. All right, when you hit that door, have you got this thing secured to the point where anything on the outside is not going to find its way, you know, because the environment that you're exiting is reasonably protected, you know, within the apartment or the house as it is. But then you go into an outdoor environment with this thing, and you have to make sure that it is secured. Now, to the other point here, losing things, if it's a blood stain, for instance, and it has saturated into the mattress, there's a high possibility that you're going to be able to, you know, protect that to a great degree from, you know, wind and rain because you've got this covering on it. I'm really worried about fragile evidence, certainly like touch, which is, if you think about touch DNA being the consistency of 10 times more fragile than, say, for instance, talcum powder, that dainty and gracile, it can actually, you know, kind of blow away. Also to be considered are hair and fiber, which, you know, any of us know, you know, that have dogs or have maybe we're finding hair on ourselves. Anything that's fragile, it can either attach itself to us or it can be blown away. And that would be a consideration as well. You don't want to lose anything that you may have captured up there in the scene. I hope that that they had these pouches secured on those mattresses before they brought them down the stairs. All of this is not as concerning to me, though, as the amount of time it's taken and then the conveyance in which they chose to do this with. And it goes more to the way the lawyers are going to look at this, and particularly the defense team, because they're going to take that videography that you and I both saw, and at trial, they'll run that. They'll run that on the screen. And remember, they don't have to prove anything. They just have to kind of implant that doubt.
So Mo sent this, and this is video from them moving the mattresses, which was a little bit better quality, but I mean, you can on video you can kind of still see this, whatever that is, stain, whatever that is under that part. You see? Let's see. I mean, is it just the shadows or what? No, I mean, to me, that's definitely something there that just sticks out. I mean, did they spill something on the bed on the way? I just can't imagine they would. To me, you can see something there. I mean, I don't know what it is, but see, right there, that's, to me, bruh. So you can argue this stuff here, like, oh, that's shadows or whatever, but this right here, that doesn't look like shadows. It's clearly something under there. It's not a shadow. Look, it's moving and it's still in place. I don't know. I mean, that to me, it's the circular shape of it and everything. I don't know. Yeah, man, it's crazy. This we watched. Let's see. Oh, Joseph was a coroner too? Where he is. Okay, well, so for people to decide. I'm sure we'll find out maybe during the trial. That was court TV.
In their minds, you know, and anybody up in this region that's ever ridden around a pickup truck, they've been in the bed of a pickup truck, they know the wind blows.
Anybody that's ever moved, period, moved.
Yeah, anybody.
And driving down the interstate, you see mattresses and furniture on the side of the road. I mean, that was all I could think of. Truly, well, almost all I can think of was, holy cow, I hope they have strapped those things down really well.
Yeah, I do too. And, you know, just the physical security of the items themselves. It's an odd thing, isn't it? Because, you know, most of the time when you're watching videography outside of crime scenes and you see the technicians walking out of the door, they're generally carrying bags.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, you think about all the time, the thousands and thousands of hours of footage that we've seen, stuff that I've seen in real time being out on scenes. You think about, you know, paper bags that are sealed. You can see the evidence tape. These things are sealed with, and of course there's other types of packaging that you can use. And then it kind of goes into the back of a van and it disappears, right? Mm-hmm. It just vanishes. That's not what happened with this. It comes out of the house and is then planted in the back of a pickup truck. And it gives you pause. It certainly does. And I'm just hoping that they haven't lost anything here.
Buy Peloton bikes, tread or run
here and wade through it all, but there's certain things that we can consider, and not everything's been revealed yet, Jackie.
One of the things that I've learned from you is how you can prove that a certain gun caused a certain wound. How are you going to do that with a knife, especially a knife you've not found?
Great question. And let's look at what we do have. What we do have is a sheath, okay, which I think is a monumental piece of evidence, and it's going to play in court when this thing finally goes to trial. But along with that sheath, you get at least the beginnings of an identification. That is provided that the knife that was carried in that sheath is the same type of knife that would have come with the sheath, okay? Because you can't have a sheath and carry a different type of knife in it. That's certainly something that must be considered, all right? So to begin with, what will happen is that the authorities, the investigators, will contact the company that manufactures this knife, in particular, specifically K-Bar, right? And if I remember correctly, on the exterior of the sheath, it is stamped with USMC. It's got the Marine Corps emblem on it, okay? And that is an identifier for that particular knife. There's probably somewhere on there a serial number. So they'll contact the manufacturer and they'll say, hey, look, we're working this case. We need to get what are referred to as knowns or exemplars of this knife. So they'll ask for, maybe 2 of these knives to come from the factory. And they'll get the sheath and they'll get the knife itself, all right? And this is something that they're going to hang on to. Now, what they can do is that they can actually take a look at the injuries that these kids sustained. And the forensic pathologist will look at the knife and come up with a conclusion as to whether or not this particular type of knife can generate this injury. Now, if you want to take it a step further, if there are any marks on any of the skeletal bodies within these remains, and I'm talking about ribs, sternum, spine, collarbone, any of these areas, there is a potential that the samples of these injured areas have been retained. This happens with great frequency at autopsy. So if there's what's referred to as an insulted piece of bone, that piece of bone would be removed from the body and it would be retained by the crime lab or by the ME. And once you get that knife or a knife similar to that, you will ask a tool mark expert at the crime lab, maybe at the state crime lab, maybe with the FBI, to do a comparison. Give us an idea. What's your opinion here? Looking at this microscopically at this injury on the bone, can you look at this knife and say that this knife generated this injury? And they might they'll come up with an opinion about it. And a lot goes into it. You can talk about the shape of the blade along the long axis. All of these blades are unique to the manufacturer. Those are things that they will explore. Now, we don't have the actual knife to compare at this time. Not saying it's not going to make an appearance, but in my experience with knife injuries, it's important to consider that dependent upon the quality of the blade and the metal and the way it's forged is created, this type of blade might chip, okay? It might chip, and if it chips, many times it'll chip within the body, particularly if it's striking bony areas. You say, well, what can you do with that? Well, before an autopsy is conducted, one of the things that is done is you do what is called an AP and a lateral. X-ray of the body. AP means anybody that's listening, you've been to the doc's office and they make you stand to get a chest X-ray, and they make you stand and put your shoulders to the wall. They're taking a chest X-ray. That's an AP. That's kind of an overall view from that perspective. And then they do a lateral. When you're in the X-ray room, they make you turn in profile and they shoot you from that perspective. Well, that's a lateral. And so what do you do with those two X-rays? Well, you look at them before you do the autopsy and you say, okay, anatomically, if I'm looking at this image and I see a little metal storm right here, it might be just to the right of the midline, maybe adjacent to the left upper lobe of the left lung. Okay, then you flip it and you look at the lateral perspective and you can get an idea of depth, so you're not going in blind. The key is, can you find that metallic body and retrieve it? And if you can, there's an off chance that you can submit that to the crime lab, and they could do a metallurgical analysis on that. And in very simple terms, what that means is that item has a specific chemical signature that is unique to that manufacturer. How that blade is forged, if it is an amalgam of various different types of metal, how are they folded in, and all those sorts of things. And that's kind of a chemical signature. Additionally, what happens with knife wounds, and again, we don't have the knife and we don't know at this point, but many times with sharp force injuries, the tip of the knife, the very point of it, will actually break off and it will lodge. It will lodge in the body. I've seen this happen any number of times. And most of the time it goes back to the structural integrity of the knife as it applies to the quality of the manufacturer, how they make these things. And secondly, the age of the blade. How old is this blade? And then how much stress has the blade been put under? Well, let's think about what we're talking about here, right? We're talking about 4 victims, Jackie. 4. All right. This knife, I think, just from a structural standpoint, has been involved in a very intense attack. So the more and more these victims are stabbed, it would stand to reason that the structural integrity of the blade could begin to break down. People don't think about, every time you use a blade, say in your kitchen, to cut something with, that blade, even though you may have just sharpened it, is not as sharp as it was before you used it. And you keep that progression up without sharpening the blade, it blunts the blade. And as the blade gets blunted and you're still using the same amount of force, you put stress on those edges and it can begin to break down. It'll chip, and sometimes those tips will break off. I just hope that they did full body x-rays prior to doing the autopsy.
Let's see if for once I know more than you do, Joe. Not likely, but let's see.
Oh, come on.
Do you know where the name K-Bar came from?
I do not.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
I do. Okay. All right. You go ahead.
Let me enjoy this moment. So the name K-Bar came from the company that manufactured these knives was Union Cutlery. And the name K-Bar reportedly is derived from a story of a man who went toe-to-toe with a bear. His rifle didn't kill it, didn't inflict enough damage, and he went hand to hand and finished off the bear with his knife from Union Cutlery. Hence the name K-A-Bar came from kill a bear.
Wow. I had no idea. Plus, you're originally from East Tennessee, so you guys would pronounce bar like that, bear like that, right? So
good country folks would have said bar.
Well, that's actually kind of fascinating.
I had to know, so I went and looked it up, and this is coming from. I'm getting this from the website iCkEdMeL.com.
Well,
so I would believe that it's probably true.
I do know that our Marines and our sailors and actually our coasties, have carried K-bars for a long time. Of course,
Yes.
the sailors and the coasties
Yes.
have a different utility for them. They'll, do work on decks and that sort of thing, cut rope and and do maintenance. Of course, Marine Corps, we know what the Marine Corps likes to use their K-bars for.
Yeah.
And so and that's who it's most closely associated with, I think.
One last thing that I want to get your take on is the footprint that was left outside the surviving roommate's door.
Yeah.
What's that going to give us?
A lot. And not many people are talking about it. I haven't really talked about it a lot, but I think that it's significant. And I'm kind of unclear based upon the affidavit, because they used an agent, Amido Blue, that is.
Wait, say that again?
Amido Blue.
Okay.
And it binds with protein, and it binds with protein in blood. And so you'll use it to lift latent prints with, all right, or to, let's say not lift, let's say document latent prints. Now, latent prints can either be hand prints, palm prints, but it can actually also be footprints. And in this case, that's how they recognize this. They were applying this agent to the significant. Well, it's significant. We talk a lot about DNA and, the trace evidence, but, when you get these manufacturer connections as well, one of the questions I think that's real important, and I know that these guys are doing their due diligence and asking these questions, very simply put, did the suspect own a pair of Vans? That seems very simplistic, but you got to start somewhere, right? Well, if he owned a pair of Vans, did he own this type of pair of Vans where it has this particular pattern? And also, I don't know how robust this print was that they had raised, but here's a very interesting aspect. If it was significant enough, that print that was left behind, you could tell something about the wear pattern. And when I say wear pattern, I'm talking about maybe how old the shoes were. Was it kind of a faint kind of print? Was it something that looks like it was generated from something that was worn down? Think about a pencil with an eraser. You know how the eraser on a brand new pencil will look, like it'll have all the little curves on it. It'll be perfectly round on the top.
Lopsided.
But yeah, after you use it for a while, you wear it down. It has a completely different appearance to it. It's the same thing. And also another thing that you can analyze here is perhaps if how they step. Do they pronate? Do they supinate? What does that mean? Do they heel strike? Well, it all depends on, do they flex their feet in? Do they walk kind of on the arch of their foot?
Pigeon-toed.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Some people used to use the term knot kneed. You roll your feet in and you strike on the inner portion of your foot, or do you say list more to the outer edges of your foot, or kind of roll your feet out when you walk? And then how are you, a heel striker or are you a toe striker when you're walking? Or do you just shuffle? Do you plant your feet, straight up and down, almost like a piston? And, these people that do the shoe analysis are amazing people, and they don't get a lot of credit because it's a very fine science. There's a bit of art involved in it too, but that footprint is very significant, at least to my way of thinking. And I'd have to ask, if they raise the print with something, this agent that binds with the proteins in blood, are we left to believe that this is a bloody shoe print?
Okay, interesting. It was my first time listening to Joseph Scott Morgan on the podcast thing. I'm gonna get. We're caught up on super chats. Michelle, thank you for the subscription. I think I'm gonna call it for now because I gotta go get the baby. I'm a little tired. That story I'm gonna have to share it for another time because it's kind of long. Vitali, I think his name was Vitali. Russian air traffic control. Vitaly Koloyev. This is a Russian story of a man who exacted revenge. I saw this video yesterday that was freaking amazing. It was about this guy and his 2 kids, and I mean, maybe I could say it briefly. Really, really good story. This was a guy, I mean, I'm just off the top of my head. He started, did they make a movie? Several films, including 2017's Aftermath, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh, okay. Is a Russian guy that like I think he had kind of like a rough upbringing, and he finally got it to the point where he was making money. He had a construction business, and he ended up getting a home, nice stuff, and the only thing that was missing was like a family. And so he finds this woman, marries her. They have 2 kids together, and they had a son at first, but then the mother always wanted a daughter, and so I think they prayed about it, and they actually had a daughter. And this guy was like a really hard worker, but also was really into his family. And so one day, I think the story goes is he fell into a ditch and he broke his leg, and that stopped him from working. His business, construction business, went down under, which I still don't know why it went down under, because I would just think like, can he just pay other people to do it? But it went down under, and they were kind of struggling to make ends meet. And he gets like this job. He gets a new job, but it's like far away. And so he had to take it because, he didn't have a choice. He needed to make money. And so one day, his wife and the kids are going to fly out. And so they fly out, and he's waiting for them at the airport on the other end, and they don't show up. And he's like, they're just wondering like what's going on. He's waiting. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, all these reporters and media starts to show up at the terminal. And this one reporter looked at him because he stuck out like a sore thumb. And she's like, all right, this is the time. This is the moment. She got the cameras with her, walks up to the guy, and she's like, hey, are you waiting for your family? He's like, yeah. She's like, oh, you don't know what happened? He's like, no. And so she tells him the airplane crashed. And she got her little camera moment and stuff like that. And so the guy didn't believe it. He just couldn't believe it. And it was actually 2 planes that crashed, because they actually crashed into each other. And so this guy goes to the location. He took it was like a quick flight. I think it wasn't that far. I think he took a flight to the actual crash site because he couldn't believe it himself. He couldn't process it. And he was there at the crash site, and he actually convinced cops to let him search because the bodies were like scattered. Because like when the plane had collided, there were some bodies in the plane, but there was also bodies that flew out of the plane, scattered everywhere. Somehow this guy manages to let the cops let him like search. And so he was searching, and I think it was a farmer that found his daughter. So his daughter used to wear like these necklace beads, and he found the beads on the floor. He only found like 7 of them. He put them in a napkin, put them in his pocket, always kept it with him. So he found his daughter. They found his son and his wife. Dude was like hysterical. I could show you. There you go. Let me show you the grave. He was like torn up by this, right? So he had like this really special, nice grave done. Really, like he loved his family and kids. He felt like he had no purpose to live after their deaths. And so it was a whole big thing. A lot, I forgot how many people died on the plane. It was a whole big thing. And so he gets the bodies. They go to do the funeral service. At the time, people are like investigating the Russian FAA or whatever. They're investigating the aviation people. And at first they look at the pilots. They go to see like, was it like human error? Were they intoxicated? Did they have any kind of mental health issues? And so everything came back fine. No drugs, no alcohol, no mental health stuff. Nothing that the pilots did. Well, actually, it wasn't the pilot's fault, but they actually did do something, but it wasn't their fault. So then the blame kind of turned to this to the traffic tower. So they, in this small area that the planes were flying over, there was a company called, I forgot the name. I don't know if it was Safeguard or something. There was this company that managed the traffic in that area. And so people were looking at that company thinking that they must have made a mistake. That company was denying it. They said they didn't do anything wrong on their end. And so the company's CEO showed up to the funeral, and this guy's there, the father, and he's pissed. He's questioning the guy. The guy's security had to come and like kind of separate them. He wanted to know who was the air traffic controller, because people are looking at like, who the hell, this must be them. The guy refused to give the name. He kind of made a scene. So the guy invites him to his office the next day. He goes to his office, still wouldn't give the name. Father's pretty pissed. He leaves. He asks for more interviews. The guy says no. And so what the father does, he goes and hires a private investigator, okay, to find who the air traffic controller was that night. It took this guy, I think, 2 months. And what he told the air traffic controller, he was like, I just want to expose his name to the media. I want to get his name out so they can dig into this. So the guy does it, takes him 2 months, finds the guy. The guy has a wife and kids. This is the guy right here. This guy travels to this guy's house after getting the name. He sits on his lawn. The guy comes out and he's like, yo, like, what are you doing here? Like, what the hell? Like, get out of here. The father takes the pictures of his dead kids and his wife. I'm talking like graphic images of their body, and shows it to them like, yo, this is what you did. You're responsible. According to the father, the guy was like really dismissive and kind of looked at him arrogant, and even slapped the pictures of his kids and his family out of his hand. And he said when the pictures fell, it just reminded him of everything of his kids and his family. And so he took out a knife and started stabbing this guy right there in the front yard. This guy bleeds out to death. The father runs off back to his hotel. According to the video that I saw, this guy bled out in front of his family. Okay. And when he goes back to the hotel, he didn't even realize that he had blood. He was blood soaked, but that whole time, I guess like the adrenaline and stuff, he went back to the hotel completely soaked in blood. I guess he cleaned himself off, drank 2 bottles of vodka, passed out, went to sleep, wakes up like the next day. The cops are there, and he tells the cops like, what took you so long to get there? So he gets arrested. The investigation, while they were going to try this guy in court, the investigation came to a conclusion. What ended up happening that night with the air traffic controller was there was 2 people working that night. The one guy goes to take a break. But when he would take a break, he actually went to sleep for hours. So he was gone. This guy was left by himself running the traffic controller. While he's there by himself, this maintenance crew comes through and they're like, we got to work on the system. It has to be now. It has to be at night because there's less traffic. We can't do it during the day. And so he says, okay. So the functionality of the radar system wasn't all there. It was working, but not all there. Plus he's working by himself. Now he's bouncing between 2 computers. And when these planes are starting to come towards each other, they're flying both at 35,000 feet in the same, like they're crossing paths. While that's starting to happen, this guy is trying to deal with another call. He was talking to the flight because this flight wanted to land at this airport. He was calling. It wasn't working because the phone system was down because of the maintenance people. So it's like he could communicate with the pilots, it seemed like, but he couldn't like actually call the actual airport. For some reason, I don't know why he couldn't do it. So he calls over and over. He tells that airplane that you're going to have to contact them yourselves to land. So while all that shit's happening, and the maintenance guys are like pressuring him to like, I don't know, get out of the way, hurry up. Last second, this guy, like, I don't know how many seconds, he realizes that these planes are on a collision course. Now, there was another traffic controller that noticed that these planes were on a crash course. He tried to communicate with, first of all, he tried calling this guy, but this guy's phone system was down. He also tried to communicate with the planes, but for some reason it was against the law that if they're not in your zone over there, you're not allowed to communicate with them. So he couldn't communicate with the pilots. He couldn't communicate with this guy. This guy's dealing with trying to get this other plane to land. And as he noticed that they were about to crash. He tells them, I forgot what, he told one of them that you have to either descend 1,000 feet. Something like, he told him to descend 1,000 feet. He was having trouble with communicating with them, but I think he was able to communicate it. But what happened is the system, there's this automatic system called TCSA, I think. It's a collision system. TCSA Aviation. So it's this traffic alert collision avoidance system. The planes literally detect that you're on a collision course with another plane. So the system and one of the planes is telling them, yo, and it's automatically adjusting. It's supposed to move on its own. But this air traffic controller, he told him some wrong information. He said the plane was coming like westbound, or no, he said 4 o'clock, but it was actually coming 10 o'clock. The other thing too, instead of the pilots listening to what the automated system was telling them, they listened to this guy. And so they adjusted and they crashed into each other. Had they listened to the TCAS system, the whole thing would have been avoided. But they listened to this guy. They overrid the system and they crashed into each other. Just crazy. And like these people, they finally admitted that they were wrong, that air traffic control company. They paid out some money to the families. This guy, I think he served because people were like pissed. A lot of people stood up for this father. He served, I don't know how much time. He had a private investigator to track down Nielsen, who died in the arms of his wife and children. So it's kind of jacked up. Like this guy, the father went and killed this air traffic controller. Because while Nielsen was blamed for bereaved families, he was due to be cleared of any charges of negligence. He was sentenced to 8 years in a Swiss prison, but only served 3 years after it was found his mental trauma from the case had not been taken properly into account. He was released in 2007, and after a hero's welcome, Osidia was made Deputy Minister of Construction in his region. So they gave him this nice new job after he got released. He still doesn't regret killing the guy. There was a video where he actually talks and he's like the air traffic controller was an idiot. No regret. He refused to express regret for his action because you know what he said in the video too? He said that this guy's kid and wife, or his kids, his wife still gets to see his kids. The guy's grandparents get to see his kids. And he's like, what do I have? It's like, I have nothing. Killing him didn't make me feel any better, he said. Even in Swiss jail, nobody ever condemned me or reproached me. After the first 2 years, I got into medium security jail where I could communicate with other convicts. And when I went out for a walk into the prison yard for the first time, almost everybody came up to me to express their respect for what I did. So he got a lot of respect in jail. It was just a really, 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 really interesting story. It was by this channel called Twisted Minds. And somebody was like, it's a really long story. Yeah, the actual video was like, I think 40 minutes or something. I condensed it maybe into like 10, but it's a really, the guy, Twisted Minds, that channel was like, holy crap. They do really good stuff. There was another interesting story too, but I'll leave that for another time. But I might do that on Twitch too. We might watch some of these stories sometimes on Twitch. There was this other crazy one about this pilot that crashed the plane, had a bunch of like mental health problems, and the aviation ignored it, and it was a pretty wild story. There was another one too that I saw last night where this pilot, this guy that worked at the airport, steals a plane, and then he just like takes it for a joyride, and he's like talking with them, and he's like, he's not even a pilot. He wasn't licensed to be a pilot. And the guy's like, are you okay? Are you comfortable? He's like, yeah, I play video games. I'm good. And then eventually he crashes it into the water. So anyway, but yeah, this is why I don't, Hoke said this is why I don't fly. I started watching all these damn airplane videos last night or yesterday. That shit started freaking me out. I was like, how am I going to fly? And then for CrimeCon, I booked tickets for the small plane. And I hear that on small planes, you feel everything way more than you do on the bigger planes. So I'm like, Lord. Janitor took that plane. He was one of those guys that, I thought he was one of the guys that like drive, I forgot what it is, those vehicles that move the planes around. He stole that plane in front of everybody and just flew it out. He was a baggage handler. And there's audio of him talking to the pilot and stuff, and to the traffic controller. And he was all like chill. Like, yeah, man, I'm just flying, man. It was a nice day for a flight. I'm like, wow, bro. It was I think it was a California story, Nicole. Yeah. Yeah. Dude, 20,000 feet. No, don't say that, bro. Lord. You feel turbulence way worse on a small plane. And there's probably not going to be all the amenities. Probably not going to have any Wi-Fi on there. Yeah, he crashed the plane after. It was, crazy story. I was watching a video last night. You know what else I was watching? I was intrigued by rabies. Rabies is freaking crazy. Do you know that a bunch of people still die from rabies yearly? Let me see. Rabies deaths. Bro. Oh, it says worldwide. Okay, worldwide 60,000 per year. And rabies, once you start showing symptoms, it's almost like a 100% fatality rate. Almost like 99%. It's really, really high. Rabies. There was this video that it was so freaking crazy, dude. Because like rabies can lay dormant in you. That's why they say like you need to get the rabies shot within like 10 days. Once that stuff gets to your brain, once it travels up to your brain, 60,000. Bro, this right here, I can't even play this shit. Like when I clicked it last night, it was like a double authentication. It was like an age authentication, and there was like it was an age authentication and a graphic content authentication. And this guy, you see his last moments on rabies, and it's just crazy. And the thing is, like, they get afraid of water. They're afraid of water. I was watching this, I think a medical doctor talk about it last night, and what he said that the reason for like the fear of water, I thought it was like because this rabies is like making people like animals, like have like their animal whatever, but he said the virus tries to survive and it wants to spread. And so what happens is like after like it gets to your brain, and I think your brain starts to swell, and I think the final phase is when it goes to your internal organs. But at one point, it goes to like your saliva glands, your salivary glands, one of those glands over there somewhere, and it makes you produce a bunch of saliva. That's why your mouth starts to foam. And the reason for that is because it wants to spread to the next body, to the next host or whatever. And so that's why all these animals are like out there biting and going crazy and shit, because the virus wants to continue to spread. Humans don't typically bite as a defense. From what the guy said, sometimes they'll bite, but like more than likely they're gonna like get aggressive and like punch or whatever. And so what happens is, he said, is that in drinking water, it could dilute the virus concentration in your mouth and in the throat, and the virus doesn't like that. And so for them to drink, this video, they literally give him a cup of water and he like spits it out. Like it's like he's almost convulses. And he said that when they drink water, it's like super painful, like in your throat and stuff. It's really painful, like it burns or hurts. And it's the virus trying to survive because it doesn't want you to dilute it. It wants to keep all that concentration right there, supposedly. That was one of the things. And what the guy said too is that like they're very conscious until the very end before they die. So they could express, they get fear, they get anxiety, all kinds of stuff. It's really scary. I was also looking into the history of syphilis last night, which was Syphilis is disgusting, bro. If you don't even look up, if you go to Google Images, don't even look it up. It somehow popped up in my feed because I was looking at the rabies stuff, and then I guess it went through like diseases and like history. And the shingles thing, not shingles, syphilis is really interesting because especially back then when they couldn't treat it, I guess people were being treated with like mercury as a last ditch attempt before they came out with penicillin, I guess. Really, really nasty stuff. And like it was so bad that like with syphilis, you could literally see on people's skulls like the damage they would do because they get like these big blisters, like even their nose. Some people's noses, they said fall off. Like some people's noses, I don't know what were, I guess after deformation, their nose would just like fall off, go away. It was crazy. And they couldn't treat it back then. And it was almost like a death sentence back then. It's really interesting. All right. All right. So that was the little trips. Yeah, rabies is interesting, man. There was this guy, and there's different forms of rabies. There was this guy, Colombian guy. Let me see. That he had gotten bitten years ago, I think, and it was just dormant. Colombian. Let me see. I don't know if I can find an article. I watched it last night. Okay, here we go. This is the Colombian one? No, it's not the Colombian one. There's another one in India. So this is something you might not know. This shit can lay dormant in your ass for years. So you can get bit, not have any signs or whatever. The thing is just laying in your body. That's why it's important to get the the treatment for it. "25 years after dog bite, man dies of rabies. 40-year-old man working at Goa was diagnosed with rabies 25 years after the dog bite he received. As reported that the latest issue, the unusual case has been recorded at the GMC and hospital. The patient was admitted to GMC in November 2009. It was reported to have been bitten by a dog at the age of 23. He had not received medical attention at the time. The publication states that in cases around the world, incubation periods of 14 to 19 years have been reported between the dog bite and the manifestation of rabies." I never knew this shit before. It could, however, not be established for definite that in this case there was no subsequent exposure to dog, such as licking, etc. The man was admitted to GMC with a history of fear of water and air. Bruh. He gave a definite history of dog bite on the leg 25 years ago and no other contact with known rabid canine. He could not provide history of vaccination or medical attention. The patient's phobia seemed to have reduced as he suddenly went to the bathroom to wash his face and drank a glass of water as well. He was reported to be conscious, alert, and well-oriented to time and space. This cast doubt the diagnosis, even though the features of hydrophobia and photophobia suggested rabies. And the reason for the photophobia, I thought they said, is because the brain swells and it causes that. He went to a private hospital in the zone. Within a few hours, he succumbed following the allegation of medical negligence by the Guardian. Because of his sudden deterioration and death, the body was shifted to forensics department to establish the cause of death. The forensic report established that definitive diagnosis of rabies. So, I'm not going to go through all this, but this is I wanted to find the story with the Colombian guy. I don't know. Yeah, be careful, man. It's a scary one. It happens a lot with bats too, though. Jen P, as someone with ADHD, this is totally normal stuff to find in my search history on a regular day. Yeah, I don't know. I had fun yesterday. I went looking at different things. The rabies one was pretty scary. Studies are showing that the vax could trigger illnesses dormant in the body, like shingles, MS, and cancer. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. All right, I'm going to be out of here, man. Love you guys. Have a good night. If there's a chase, there haven't been no chases, bro. It's been like weeks. Ain't no chases going on. Nothing. I have no hopes for chases anymore. I hope they happen, but I'm just kind of like, meh. Tomorrow, I'd like to cover a new story. Tonight, after I chill and vibe, I think I might, I don't know, maybe we'll do Twitch. Yeah, MH says you can die even from a scratch from a freaking bat. Hate those things. That's what happened to this one guy. That was another story that I was watching last night. This guy just got a little scratch. And he died. He was pretty young, too. A little creeped out. All right, man. Love you guys. Take care. Peace. Bye. Bloop, bloop, bloop. It's a bunch of shots I heard for the rabies. 10 shots of rabies.